we go for one more example for this approximate derivative method. So just please note down this example. So here use the backward difference for the derivative and convert the analog filter with system function. Here one analog filter is given to you, that is h of s is equal to 1 upon s square plus 16. You have to convert that analog filter into digital filter with the help of approximate derivative method. Okay, so the system response for the digital. Okay, so the system response of the digital filter is given as h of z is equal to h of s, where we are taking the mapping function s is equal to 1 minus z inverse divided by t. So in the original equation, we replace this value of s with this mapping function 1 minus z inverse divided by t. So when you apply this and solve this, you are getting this 1 upon 1 minus z inverse square divided by t plus 16. Okay, so you are getting h of z is equal to t square divided by 1 minus 2z inverse plus z dash 2 minus 2 plus 16 t square. Okay, so here sometimes this will be your final answer, but sometimes some value of t will be given to you and you have to solve the equation for that. For here we have taken the value t is equal to 1 second. If t value of t is not given, you have to assume that value to 1 second for the sake of simplicity. Otherwise some value of t will be provided. So if t is equal to 1 second, then you apply the value of t over here. Your equation for the digital filter will be h of z is equal to 1 upon z to minus 2 minus 2z inverse plus 17. So this will be the digital filter for the given analog filter using approximate derivative method or using the mapping function s is equal to 1 minus z inverse divided by t. Okay, all of you clear up to this? This is nothing but we are using the approximate derivative method for the conversion of analog filter into digital filter. Okay, please let me know, am I audible to all properly? Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is the example of approximate derivative method. Let us go for the another method. So this is a second method for the conversion, that is IR filter design by impulse invariance. Just a second. So now here IR filter design by impulse invariance method. This is the second method for the conversion of analog filter into digital filter. So main objective of this method is to design an IR filter having an unit sample response h of n, that is sampled version of the impulse response of the analog filter. So instead of taking the analog filter, using this method we are able to obtain the impulse response of the sampled analog filter. Means we are doing the sampling of that analog signal and we obtain the response for the discrete one. So here h of n will be approximately equal to h of nt, where the value of n are from 0, 1, 2, and where t is nothing but the sampling interval. So recall that when a continuous time signal, I am repeating the Nyquist criteria, or you can say the statement of sampling theorem over here. Recall that when a continuous time signal xat, a in the subscript is nothing but the analog signal xat with frequency spectrum xaf. So xat is your analog signal, its frequency spectrum is given by the notation xaf, is sampled at a rate fs is equal to 1 by t samples per second. So here your sampling rate will be fs, that is equal to 1 by t samples per second. So the spectrum of the sampled signal, so when you apply this type of sampling, the spectrum of the sampled signal is periodic repetition of the scaled spectrum. So you are getting the periodic repetition of the scaled spectrum, that is nothing but fs into xaf. So you are multiplying the sampling frequency with the frequency spectrum of the analog signal. So fs into xf with period, that is fs. So you are getting the signal, that is xf is equal to fs summation from k is equal to minus infinity to infinity xa f minus k by fs. Here whatever notation we are using, this italic f over here, it is nothing but the normalized frequency, that is f by fs. Okay, so here we are getting this equation xa in the form of x, means we are getting the output response, frequency response xf for the given analog signal. So we are taking one analog signal as an input, taking its frequency response, multiplying it with the sampling frequency, and we obtain this. So here the aliasing occurs if the sampling rate fs is less than the twice the highest frequency contained in xf. So this is a Nyquist criteria. If we are not following the Nyquist criteria, means when our sampling frequency is less than the highest frequency of the signal, highest frequency of the signal component xf, then we are getting the aliasing effect. So we have to fulfill that condition. When we select the sampling frequency, it must be at least equal to the highest sampling frequency or greater than of that highest signal frequency. Okay, so now expressed in the context of sampling the impulse response. Now same equation I'm using, but here instead of xa, x represent the signal over here, but we are relating this with our impulse response. So instead of x, I am writing the f only, sorry, h only. So here the express in the context of sampling the impulse response of analog filter with frequency response hf, the digital filter with unit samples response hn is equal to hant, has the frequency response. So same equation I have written, but in terms of impulse response. So you are getting hf is equal to fs summation from k is equal to minus infinity to infinity ha f minus k into fs. Now you convert this for into in terms of omega. So you are getting this h omega is equal to fs summation from k is equal to minus infinity to infinity ha. Here I am writing this term, that is replace this f with the omega, and here when you are writing the term omega over here, I am adding this term, that is 2 pi, because omega is equal to 2 pi f. So here I am adding this 2 pi term over here, omega minus 2 pi k by into fs. Okay, now we convert that. Now we convert this h psi t term. So omega is equal to psi of t, not psi but mo of t is equal to 1 by t summation from k is equal to minus infinity to infinity ha mo minus 2 pi k by t. So here t should be selected sufficiently small to avoid aliasing. So whatever t we are selecting over here, that must be having the lower value. So when you select the higher value of t, it will create the aliasing effect. When your t is higher, as we know, your time period is, or you can say time is inversely proportional to frequency. Okay, so here when you select the higher value of t, what happened indirectly? You are getting the lower value of sampling frequency, because both are inversely proportional. So when you are taking the lower value of sampling, what happened? It creates the aliasing effect or overlapping in the output. So that is mentioned over here. T should be selected sufficiently small to avoid aliasing. Okay, and this particular method have one limitation, that is this method is not suitable to design high pass filter. Okay, so this particular method is useful for only low pass and band pass filter, but not suitable for the high pass filter. Why? Because due to large amount of possible aliasing. Because as you increase the frequency, chances of aliasing will be increased in this method. So this method is only suitable for the low range of frequencies. Okay, so this is the frequency response of the analog filter and corresponding digital filter with aliasing. So here HA mod t, this is nothing but the response of the analog filter. Similarly, we are writing this H mod t. Here you notice this notation A over here, which represent the analog filter. So if I plot the response of the analog filter, it will be like this. The range is minus 25 to 25. At the origin, you are getting the peak value. Okay, but in digital, when we go for the conversion of this filter into the digital using impulse method, we are doing the sampling of that and we are taking the sampling frequency multiplied with the frequency spectrum of the signal. So when we are doing this, what happened? We are getting the periodic repetition of the signal. Okay, so we are getting this periodic repetition of the signal that depend on this value of t, or you can say indirectly depend on the value of sampling frequency, because t is equal to 1 by fs. So here first you are getting this first sample as it is. Another, you are getting the periodic repetition of the dead signal. One you are getting in the higher side of the frequency, another you are getting the lower side of the frequency. Okay, or you can say the LSB and USB. So what happened if you are not selected the t value smaller? What happened? The chances of overlapping in this region will be higher. Okay, so this overlapping is nothing but it represent as a aliasing, mixing of the signals. Higher end of this signal will be mixed with the lower end of the next signal. So this is how you are getting the analog filter converted into the digital filter. And one thing you have to remember, to avoid aliasing using this method, you have to take the value of t as small as possible. Okay, now we continue with this IR filter designed by impulse invariance, same topic. Suppose that the poles of the analog filters are distinct. Means whatever poles of our analog filter, we assume that we are getting the distinct poles, means we are getting the different poles in the output. Then the partial fraction expansion of HAS, partial fraction expansion of this analog filter response, HAS written as HAS is equal to summation from k is equal to 1 to n ck divided by s minus pk. So here where whatever term we are mentioned is pk is nothing but the poles of the analog filter, and ck are the coefficients in the partial fraction expansion. So two terms we have added, that is ck over here and pk in the denominator. The meaning of these terms are pk represent the poles of the analog filter and ck are the coefficients in the partial fraction expansion. So if pk is not given directly, you can apply the partial fraction expansion and calculate the value of that. Okay, so when we apply the inverse transform to this function, we are getting the equation that is HAT is equal to summation from k is equal to 1 to n ck e raised to pkt, where the value of t is greater than or equal to 0. If we sample now, as this is the impulse invariance method, first we have to obtain the analog response or impulse response, then we apply the sampling. So this is nothing but the analog response of the filter HAT. Here it is in the S domain, we converted it to the time domain using inverse Laplace transform, and then we apply the sampling over here. So here we are getting HAT and we apply the period, you can say the sampling at the with the value t is equal to nt. So h of n is nothing but HANT, means your analog signal is sampled with the value of t is equal to n into capital T. So when you apply this t, small t is now, instead of continuous signal, now you are getting the sampled signal. So this notation is changed over here. Equation is summation from k is equal to 1 to n ck e raised to pk into tn. The terms are, instead of small t, you have to write the terms small t into capital T. Okay, now we go for the digital IR filter based on this. So the equation for the system function using Z transform, h of z is equal to summation from n is equal to 0 to infinity h of n into z raised to minus n. Now apply the value of h of n, what you are getting in the, just a second, what you applied you got in the previous equation, this one, summation from k is equal to 1 to n ck e raised to pk into tn. That value I am applying over here. Okay, by interchanging the summation terms and modifying, and whatever sum term you are getting, they give you the convergence for the values of pk less than 0, and you are getting this answer, that is 1 upon 1 minus e raised to pk raised to t into z inverse. So when you apply this, your final equation will be h of z, or you can say the system function for the digital filter will be h of z is equal to summation from k is equal to 1 to n ck divided by 1 minus e raised to pkt into z inverse, where this term e raised to pkt is nothing but provides you the poles of the digital filter, which is mentioned over here. Zk is equal to e raised to pkt, where k having the value 1 to n. This will define the poles of the digital filters. Above equation for h of z holds only for distinct poles, which can be generalized for multiple pole also. Okay, so whatever equation we have derived up to this, it is valid, or it holds true for the distinct poles, and this equation can be generalized for multiple order poles also. Okay, clear up to this? So this is nothing but,
सर
yes, Jinendra.
सर कैपिटल टी क्यों लेते हैं स्मॉल टी की जगह एन के साथ?
uh, we have defined the different notation for that. A small t represent your time domain representation, and here t is nothing but sampling interval.
ओके सर.
Okay, just a second, I may getting another query also. If this case is t is greater than 0 and fs will tend to infinity, and we can use it for high pass filter. Yeah, for this is for the generalized case. Generally we are for which equation you are telling, Ekta?
Sir, this graph, yeah, previous slide.
This one. Okay.
Sir, as you said, as we increase the T, this overlapping will increase,
Yeah.
leading to more issues. So if I tend T to 0, then my overlapping will be minimum, and in that case, my frequency will tend to infinity, FS, sampling frequency. So
Yeah.
I can use it for high pass filter in that case.
You can use, but one condition is mentioned over here that I already discussed. It is not designed used for the, because when you take the higher frequencies for you can say for the designing of high pass filter, you require to set your frequencies to the higher band of the higher range of the band. Okay, so in that case your sampling frequency will be higher also. Okay, so to achieve the higher sampling frequency, you have to when you apply the higher sampling frequency, so the chances of overlapping will be higher in this case. So that's why the limitation is we can't use this filter designed for the high pass filter. We go for the next method, that is bilinear transformation. That will be useful for the high pass filter design. Is it okay, Ekta?
Sir, I didn't get it. If I increase FS, then definitely T will decrease and the overlapping will decrease.
No, what I am telling is t should be selected sufficiently small. That is, you can say whatever you are telling, try to tell that this one. T is inversely proportional to 1 by fs. If you take the higher value of fs, your t will reduce. Okay, but that is the sampling frequency. Okay, but the so design is like this. Whatever design we are using, this impulse invariance method. So here HA of psi t. So here you are getting minus 25 and 25. For example, these are the values of the your low pass filter. Okay, and similarly here the diagram is shown that if you go for the impulse invariance method, what happen? You are getting the original signal and replicas of that in the lower sideband as well as in the upper sideband. Okay, so you have to provide some guard band bit. Just a second, let me erase all the ink. Okay, so you have to provide some lower, when you are applying the lower value of t over here, chances are there you are getting some guard band in this region, or guard band, not guard band but exactly, but the separation in this region. So you can say you are getting the exact spectrum. But when you move this spectrum to the higher end, what happen? This equation will give you the response like that. Whatever output you are getting, the chances of overlapping will be higher. It is not you can directly apply this equation over here, but in that case the chances of overlapping in the higher band of region will be that, because in that you are getting the terms which for the lower side band and upper side band also. So in that you are getting fc plus or minus fs terms. Okay, so as you increase your fs cutoff frequency, in that case you are getting the higher overlapping in this. So whenever this is a generalized case, when we apply any of the sampling method, it always create the overlapping in the higher pass high pass filters.
Got it, sir.
Okay. Okay, so this is the impulse invariance method. Let me summarize it again. So here h of n is your analog input response. We are applying the sampling. After applying the sampling, we try to convert that sample signal using Z transform to convert the analog signal into the digital signal. And when so as the condition is you are getting the aliasing effect or overlapping. So overlapping will be more when you go for the higher pass filters. So these filters are more suitable. It is not you cannot use this filter for the high pass, but the chances of aliasing will be higher for the high pass. So that's why we limit this design, or you can say this design can be is utilized or suitable only for the low pass filters. Okay, So these are the equation using which we get the final equation, that is h of z is equal to summation k is equal to 1 to n ck 1 minus e raised to pkt into z raised to minus 1. Okay, so using this equation we are able to get the system function of the digital filter for the given analog filter. Okay, now one equation is given to you. We try to solve one example based on this. Convert the analog filter with system function HAS is equal to S plus 0.1 divided by S plus 0.1 square plus 9 in a digital filter by means of the impulse invariance method. Here one analog filter is given to you. HAS is equal to S plus 0.1 S plus 0.1 square plus 9. So this is the analog filter response or system function is given to you. You have to convert this analog filter response into the digital filter by means of impulse invariance method. So you have to apply the impulse invariance method and convert this. Okay, so we note that. Just Rahul Meena, please unmute. Rahul Meena, please unmute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what was the issue? You are left the meeting again and again.
हाँ
So I have to
सर
again
नेटवर्क प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है सर.
look. Please try, do correct some sit in the proper location so you get the proper network.
Yes, sir, yes,
Otherwise,
sir.
I have to every time I have to quit my PPTs and allow go for allowing you to join the meeting.
Sorry, sir.
Okay, so here we note that this analog filter having the 0. Here we have to mention the where we are getting the poles and zeros. So here we are getting the zeros at the location s is equal to 0.1, and we are getting a pair of complex conjugate poles pk at the location minus 0.1 plus or minus j3. First pole you are getting, that is minus 0.1 plus j3. Another pole we are getting at the location minus 0.1 minus j3. Okay, so now we apply the partial fraction expansion and we got this equation. H of s is equal to 1 by 2 s plus 0.1 minus j3 plus 1 by 2 s plus 0.1 plus j3. Okay, and again when you go for the simplification, you are getting this 1 by 2 1 minus e raised to 0.1 t into e raised to j3t into z inverse. This is the s domain. We convert that into the h of z domain. So here whatever equation we have written, ck 1 minus e raised to pkt z inverse, that I am applying over here. Ck is nothing but your coefficients. E raised to pkt means e raised to pole location. So here pole location you have to apply, that is 0.1 I am applying over here into e raised to minus j3t. Okay, here you have to apply e raised to pkt, so that we have applied e raised to minus 0.1 t into e raised to j3t into z inverse plus 1 by 2 1 minus e raised to 0.1 t into e raised to minus j3t into z inverse. So here, since two poles are complex conjugate, we can combine them to form a single two pole filter with system function. So we try to combine both the poles and we get the single you can filter, or you can say the two pole function in a two pole filter, a single two pole filter having this following system function. So that is given as 1 minus e raised to minus 0.1 t cos 3t z raised to minus 1 divided by 1 minus 2 e raised to 0.1 t cos 3t z raised to minus 1 plus e raised to minus 0.2 t into z inverse. This will be the equation for this particular example. So I suggest all of you to remember this equation only, what you are getting. H of z is equal to 1 minus e raised to, here I am writing this term as a. I show you this equation in the next slide also, but I suggest you to modify at present. This cos, here you write the term b. So whatever e raised to terms, just see that this represent the value of the real pole. So that is 0.1 only, minus 0.1 over here. Okay, and here also, here just a second, here it will be multiplied e raised to minus 0.1 into e raised to minus j3. When you go for the multiplication, you are getting this expansion. Only remember this, e raised to a you have to apply, and cos 3t, 3 means you have to take the imaginary term. Okay, so at present this is the first example. HAS is equal to s plus 0.1 s plus 0.1 square plus 9. So this will be the final equation, because here value of t is not given to you. So this will be the your final answer. H of z is equal to 1 minus 0.1t cos 3t into z inverse divided by 1 minus 2 e raised to 0.1t cos 3t into z inverse plus e raised to minus 0.2 t into z inverse. Okay, so these are the graphs. First graph is for the digital filter, second graph for the analog filter. As you see in the analog filter, we are getting this type of response. Similarly, when we go for the digital filter, your graph is based on this value of t. Okay, so as you are taking the two different values of t I have taken for the plotting. So if you are taking t is equal to 0.5, just a second. So t is equal to 0.1 and t is equal to 0.5. As you are taking the different values of t, what happened? The resonant frequency of your digital filter will change. Okay, so these things are mentioned over here. Aliasing is significantly more prevalent when t is equal to 0.5 than when t is equal to 0.1. So as you are getting t is equal to 0.5 instead of t is equal to 0.1, as you are taking, you can easily compare both the graphs. As you are taking t is equal to 0.1, your graph is very much nearer to the analog filter. Okay, but when you are taking t is equal to 0.5, your resonant frequency is shifted. Okay, and due to this shift, and here you can see the lower value of this, you can see the whatever magnitude you are getting over here is minus 40 dB. Here you are getting minus 25 dB. So the graph having the non-zero values from the initial. So when you plot the second curve for this, or you can say the second harmonic of this, the chances of overlapping or aliasing in this t is equal to 0.5 will be higher compared to this t is equal to 0.1 case. Okay, and also note that the shift of the resonant frequency as t is changes. So here this is easily clearly visible. As I'm taking t is equal to 0.1, my resonant frequency is at this location. Here I'm getting the resonant frequency shifted to the another location. Resonant frequency means simply you are getting the peak value for that particular frequency. This example illustrates the importance of selecting a small value of t for minimize the effect of aliasing. So due to the presence of aliasing, the impulse invariance method is appropriate for the design of low pass and band pass filters only. So we can say this method due to the presence of impulse invariance, due to the presence of aliasing, this method is suitable only for low pass and band pass filters. Okay, now we take the another example. In that I am applying the value of t is equal to 1 second. I suggest all of you to please go for the solution of this example and share your answer in the comment box. Convert the analog filter into the digital filter whose system function is given as h of s is equal to s plus 0.1 divided by s plus 0.2 square, sorry, not 0.1 but 0.2, s plus 0.2 square plus 9. Use the impulse invariance technique. Assume t is equal to 1 second. Take the value of t is equal to 1 second over here. Though we know that the value of t will be ideally it is very much nearer to the 0.1 only, but for the sake of simplicity in this example, we have taken the value t is equal to 1 second. Okay, so apply the value of t is equal to 1 second and derive the answer for this example. Okay, one more thing. I have shared the aim of the 11th experiment through mail and the steps to implement that particular practical. So you have to implement that air filter design and submit your entire file on the link which I will share on Friday evening. So I will give you the time for Friday evening to Saturday evening. So you can submit your entire file over there. Okay, practical 1 to 7 already evaluated, but at the end we need some proof that you have completed the entire file. So in the submission, you club all the practicals and submit all 1 to 11 practicals together. First page is your certificate page. Second page is your index page. Dates of the experiment I already given to you. So total 11 experiments. Then after this certificate index page, you have to keep all the 11 practicals. Okay. And tomorrow there will be the evaluation of the remaining student as well as जिनके अभी तक 9 प्रैक्टिकल या लास्ट प्रैक्टिकल तक इवोल्यूशन नहीं हुआ है उनका भी कल इवोल्यूशन करेंगे. तो बेटर है कि कल हम लैब सेशन थोड़ा अर्ली स्टार्ट करें. सो वी स्टार्ट आवर लैब सेशन फ्रॉम 1:30 onwards. So I share the link at 1:30 prior to 1:30. So you all please join at 1:30. So we can start the evaluation process little early. Okay, so when you are taking this s is plus 0.2 divided by s plus 0.2 square plus 9. So let me give you the solution. So the system response of the analog filter of the standard form. So we make this equation in a very more generalized form. So that is h of s is equal to s plus a divided by s plus a square plus b square. Okay, so you have to remember this is the standard form of the analog filter, s plus a square plus b square. So here value of a from this equation you can say easily that is plus 0.2. So you have taken 0.2. Value of here is 9. 9 is nothing but the, you can say b square. So b will be 3. So the system response of the digital filter can be obtained using. So now I am writing the generalized equation. H of z is equal to 1 minus e raised to at cos bt z inverse divide by 1 minus 2 e raised to minus 80 cos bt z inverse plus e raised to minus 280 z raised to minus 2. So here you have to write all the e terms having the notation a over here, and whatever the cos terms they are using this b value. Okay, and this is the first term. So here z inverse. So here I am writing the e raised to minus 80. Here it is a z raised to minus 2. So here you have to remember, here you have to write e raised to minus 280. Okay, so now you have to apply the value of a and b. So you will get this answer is equal to 1 minus e raised to 0.2t cos 3t into z inverse divide by 1 minus 2e raised to minus 0.2t cos 3t into z inverse plus e raised to minus 0.4t into z raised to minus 2. Okay, now as in this experiment, in this example, the value of t is already given. So we are utilizing that value of t and we go for the further simplification. So taking the value of t is equal to 1 second. This will be your answer. That is h of z is equal to 1 minus 0.8187 minus 0.99 into z inverse divide by 1 minus 2 into 0.8187 minus 0.99 into z inverse plus 0.6703 into z raised to minus 2. When you go for the multiplication of these terms in the numerator and denominator, your final answer will be h of z is equal to 1 plus 0.8105 z inverse divide by 1 plus 1.6210 z inverse plus 0.6703 z raised to minus 2. Okay, so this kind and these type of examples, sometimes the value of t will be given, and if the value of t is not given, you have to apply the assumption and take the value of t is equal to 1 second for the simplicity of the calculation. Okay, so normally it will be given in the examples, but if it is not given, you have to go for the assumption and take the value t is equal to 1 second and derive the answer up to this. Okay, so this is the second method for the IR filter design, that is the impulse invariance method. First one is the approximate derivative. Just a second. First one is the approximate derivative method. Second is this impulse invariance method. Now we go for the third method, that is bilinear transformation. So just note down this title, bilinear transformation. So this is again a mapping from the S plane to Z plane called the bilinear transformation. Yes.
So sorry to interrupt. Tomorrow we have a final practical test in lunchtime, 1:30 to 1:50 of NMUP subject.
Okay. So your practical exam or
Practical quiz, sir, 15 marks.
okay, okay. So then you can join at 2 o'clock, no problem.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Okay, so this is a bilinear transformation, a mapping from the S plane to the Z plane called the bilinear transformation that overcomes the limitation of the other two design methods. So here it is an algebraic transformation between the variables S and Z, mapping of the entire Z-mo axis of the S plane to the one revolution of the unit circle in the Z plane. In this method, we map the entire S plane axis into the one revolution of the unit circle in the Z plane. We apply the transformation in such a way that entire Z-mo axis, it will be converted or will be transformed into the one revolution of the unit circle in the Z plane. So for this particular bilinear transformation, this is the mapping function we are applying, that is S is equal to 2 by T 1 minus Z inverse 1 and divide by 1 plus Z inverse. The derivation of this function is discussed in your book in detail, but at present, due to limitation of time, I am taking this function directly. You have to remember this. This is the bilinear transformation. So the mapping function is S is equal to 2 by T 1 minus Z inverse divided by 1 plus Z inverse. So here T denotes the sampling interval. This mapping is called the bilinear transformation. So to investigate the characteristic of the bilinear transformation, we are applying these terms. Z is equal to R into e raised to j omega. We separate this Z into the real and imaginary parts. Then we are taking this S domain. So here we are representing the Z domain. Here we are representing the S plane. So S is equal to psi plus j mo. So here our equation is given over here. S is equal to 2 by T 1 minus Z inverse divided by 1 plus Z inverse. So if you write this equation in the form of Z, this equation will be S is equal to 2 by T Z minus 1 upon Z plus 1. Now applying the value of Z over here, that is R into e raised to j omega minus 1, and here in the denominator R into e raised to j omega plus 1. Okay, and now when you simplify this or you multiply the numerator and denominator with the value of R raised to j omega plus 1, you are getting the answer, that is 2 by T in 2 by T R square minus 1 divide by 1 plus R square plus 2R cos omega plus J into 2R sin omega divided by 1 plus R square plus 2R cos omega. Here we have written the real part and imaginary part separately. So you can easily transform this, or you can say compare it with this equation. S is equal to psi plus J mo. So the value of this psi term will be this one, and value of this mo term will be this one. So I am writing these values. So psi term will be 2 by T R square minus 1 divided by 1 plus R square plus 2R cos omega. This more term will be 2 by T 2R sin omega divided by 1 plus R square plus 2R cos omega. So based on this equation, we can say when the value of R is less than 1, when we are taking the value of R is less than 1, then psi is less than 0. Means when this if R is less than 1, means earlier we have seen this, we are taking the S plane. This is the left half of the S plane. Let me draw this roughly. And this is the right half plane of the S plane. Here I'm writing the psi term over here, and this is the imaginary term J mo. Okay, and you are relating this term with the Z plane. Okay. Okay, so here when value of R is less than 1, means when your values are inside the unit circle, what happen? In that case, you are falling in this region less than 0. So when psi is less than 0, means you are falling into the region of left half plane. When R is greater than 1, means when your poles are outside the unit circle, you are falling into the region of psi greater than 0, which is nothing but the right half plane. So here we can say that the left half plane, yes, simply you can say when you are in the left half plane of in the S plane, what happened? All the values are mapped inside the unit circle. And when you are in the right half plane, all these values are mapped into outside the unit circle. So here it is mentioned, consequently the left half plane in the S maps into the inside of the unit circle in the Z plane, and right half plane in the S plane maps into the outside of the unit circle. So when these are the two conditions, when R is less than 1, then you can see this item is 0 less than 0. When R is greater than 1, it will be greater than 0. Now we go for this value. When R is equal to 1, means you are exactly on the unit circle. Then what happened? Then whenever you are exactly on the unit circle, you are in the S plane, this value will be 0. Okay, so when we take the R is equal to 0 in this equation, whatever term this I represent, this term will become 0. And now we have to calculate this imaginary axis only. So we have to take this, mo is equal to 2 by t sine 1 plus cos r, cos omega. So here again we are applying the value of R is equal to 1, and when we solve this, we are getting this mo term is equal to 2 by t sine omega divided by 1 plus cos omega. So when you simplify it further, you are getting mo is equal to 2 by t sine omega by 2. Okay, so this is how your analog frequency is related with the digital frequency term, or you can say the frequency of your S plane is related with the frequency of Z plane. Or you can write this omega is equal to 2 tan inverse mo t by 2. This will be the final equation. This gives the relationship between the two frequency variables which are shown over here. A value of mo means analog filter frequency values are given to you. How you will map these values into the frequency domain, that is shown to you, and that you are achieved with the help of bilinear transformation. So when you plot this, you are getting this mo t values on the x-axis, and you are getting the output on the for the omega values over here, and whatever curve you are getting that is based on this equation, omega is equal to 2 tan inverse mo t by 2. Okay, so what we conclude from this graph, so we observe that the entire range in the analog frequency is mapped onto only once into the range minus pi to pi. So here whatever values of omega psi t, or you can say the analog frequency you are taking, all these values are mapped between the range minus pi to pi only. Okay, so the mapping is highly non-linear. You can see that here whatever graph you are getting, it shows the non-linear graph. For lower values you are getting the exact linear graph, but as you approach to the higher range of the analog frequencies, you are getting the lower values, or you getting the compression for that. So in this case you can say that the mapping is highly non-linear. The frequency compression or frequency warping is observed as it is usually called due to the non-linearity of the arctangent function. Why we are getting this kind of compression? That is why, because we are using this arctangent or tan inverse function for the implementation. It is also interesting to note that bilinear transformation maps the point S is equal to infinity into the point Z is equal to minus 1. So when you are taking the infinite point in the S plane, that will be mapped into the point Z is equal to minus 1. Similarly, the single pole low pass filter, which has a 0 at S is equal to infinity, results in a digital filter that has a 0 at Z is equal to minus 1. Okay, so this is we are achieving with the help of bilinear transformation. So as we have seen that it can implement the entire range of analog frequencies in the range of minus pi to pi. So this is the method which we can utilize for any of the conversion of analog filter into the digital filter, maybe low pass, high pass, band stop, or band pass. Okay, so let us take one example based on this. Convert the analog filter with system function HAS is equal to S plus 0.1 divide by S plus 0.1 square plus 16 into a digital IR filter by means of bilinear transformation. The digital filter is to have resonant frequency omega r is equal to pi by 2. Okay, so the analog filter has a resonant frequency. Here analog filter, this is whatever term here it is given to you, that is, you can say that is 16 over here. So that is nothing but this analog frequency square. So here 16 is nothing but represent the square of this mode term. So we are writing the analog filter has a resonant frequency Mo r is equal to 4, which is to be mapped. Now this frequency is given to you. Omega r is equal to pi by 2. So omega r is nothing but the resonant frequency of the digital filter. So you have to map this 4 value into the value of pi by 2 by selecting the value of parameter t. So when you apply that conversion equation, we observe that when we select t is equal to 1 by 2, we are able to get this value omega r is equal to pi by 2. So here we have to select the value of t, that is 1 by 2, to convert this analog frequency 4 into the digital frequency pi by 2. Okay, and now as per this equation, now we apply the mapping equation. This is S is equal to 2 by t, 1 minus z inverse 1 minus z inverse divided by 1 plus z inverse. So here, as we are taking t is equal to 1 by 2, so 2 by t, so now your equation will become, or mapping function will become, S is equal to 4 into 1 minus z inverse divided by 1 plus z inverse. Now you have to apply this mapping function into this equation. Okay, replace all the values of S with this function. Okay, S plus 0.1 divided by, just a second, S plus 0.1 divided by S plus 0.1 square plus 16. So you are taking this, applying these values and simplify, you will get this h of z will be 0.128 plus 0.006 z inverse minus 0.122 z inverse divided by 1 plus 0.0006 z inverse plus 0.975 z(2 minus 2. Okay, so here we note that the coefficient of the z inverse term in the denominator of the h of z is extremely small. Here this term is very small over here, 0.0006 into z inverse. So we are ignoring that term and we take the system function. Final equation will be like this: h of z is equal to 0.128 plus 0.006 z inverse minus 0.122 z(2 minus 2, 1 plus 0.975 z(2 minus 2. So this will be the function you are getting, h of z, and when you solve this, you will get the poles for the equation. Here you are getting the 2 poles, that is 0.987 e raised to plus or minus j pi by 2, and you are getting the 2 zeros at the location -1 and 0.95. This will be your final system function, and these are the values of poles and zeros for the digital filter. This is how you can solve with the help of bilinear transformation. Okay, now let us take one more example. Just a second. All of you clear up to this? Okay, now write down the last example related to this bilinear transformation, then we will finish this. Design a digital single pole low pass filter with a 3 dB bandwidth, that is 0.2 pi, using the bilinear transformation applied to the analog filter. The analog filter is h of s is equal to mo c plus s plus mo c. So here this is nothing but the 3 dB frequency of the analog filter. So where omega, this mo c term depend the 3 dB bandwidth of the analog filter. So this analog filter is given to you and you have to transform that into the digital filter with the help of bilinear transformation. So here the digital filter is specified having the minus 3 dB gain, that is omega c is equal to 0.2. So in the frequency domain of the analog filter, omega c is equal to 0.2 pi corresponds to. So we are taking this equation from this theory. Just a second. Here it is given. This mo term is related with this omega like this. Mo term will be 2 by t 10 omega by 2. So I am applying this equation over here. Mo is equal to 2 by t 10 omega by 2. So here omega is equal to 0.2 pi. So we are getting the value 0.1 pi. So when you simplify this, your answer will be 0.65 divided by t. So the analog filter has a system function. Now I am applying this value into the analog function, which is we are written over here. This mo term, whatever mo terms are given, we replace this with this value 0.60 pi by t. So you are getting this h of s is equal to 0.65 divided by t, divide in the denominator s plus 0.65 divided by t. This represent our filter design in the analog domain. Now we have to apply the mapping function. Which mapping function? This one. just a second, simply 2 by t 1 minus z inverse divided by 1 plus z inverse. Instead of t, or sorry, here you can apply this value only because t value is not given. S is equal to 2 by t 1 minus z inverse divided by 1 plus z inverse. So you notice in this equation here these values are like this, 0.60 pi divided by t. Here s value, whatever s value you are applying, that is 2 by t 1 minus z dash to minus 1 divided by 1 plus z dash to minus 1. Okay, again the term whatever we are applying, that is 2 by t. Okay, so here all these t terms will be cancelled out. Okay, so finally your equation, when you simplify, your equation will be h of z is equal to 0.245 into 1 plus z inverse divided by 1 minus 0.509 z inverse. Here all the t parameters has been divided out or cancelled out. So the frequency response of the filter is, now we replace this z term with this omega. So h omega is equal to 0.245, 1 plus e raised to minus j omega, 1 minus 0.509 e raised to j omega. This is the equation we are getting for the digital filter. Okay, now we are applying the values and cross check whatever given in this example, we are getting exactly that value or not. So here when we take omega is equal to 0, it shows that your h of 0 will be 1. And when omega is equal to 0.2 pi, omega is equal to 0.2 pi is mentioned that this is the minus 3 dB frequency. So when you are taking this frequency, the magnitude response will give you the value that is 0.707. So here we are applying this value, omega is equal to 0.2 pi in this equation. We are taking this omega is equal to 0.2 pi and calculate the mode value for this equation. Your answer is 0.707. So we can say that we have achieved or we have designed the correct filter or desired response. Okay, so this is how we can design with the help of bilinear transformation. Okay, so with this we have completed the analog filter or design using FIR method as well as IR method. Okay, sorry, we have completed the FIR filter design and we have completed the IR filter design. In FIR filter design, we are using the method, windowing method, frequency sampling method, and some overview about the Chebyshev approximation. And here we have used these three methods: approximate derivative, impulse invariance, and last one is the bilinear transformation. Okay, tomorrow we will discuss about the characteristic of the analog filters. I will try to cover the filters Butterworth filter and Chebyshev filter. Okay, with this means after completion of these two filters, we will finish this section, unit 3. Okay, so few topics are remaining, 2 more filters are there, but their theoretical part is only in your syllabus. So you cover that part in your self-study. And then from in the next week, as we are getting the 3 lectures in the next week, I will try to cover your unit 4 in that 3 lectures. Okay, total hours required are 6, but I try my level best to cover the most of the content in the next 3 lectures. Okay.